So, welcome to class. That sounds super cheesy to start with, but I'm so glad those of you who were able to make it got to make it. We'll be sharing a lot of this information across different platforms for social media, but it really helps when you're able to attend the class because you get more information, but you also get three different voices chiming in. I'll be teaching the class tonight, but Susan and Stacy both will have input on certain things. If you guys have questions at any point about the CBD or anything else that's coming up, feel free to kind of pop in, unmute yourself and ask questions or ask in the chat. Susan's going to be monitoring that. And we'll make sure that we get all those answered. And then at the end, we'll have a couple minutes to be able to answer questions too. This is a particular topic that has a lot of questions because we've got a huge shift happening in the whole THC versus CBD kind of a field. So we're going to go over some really good information that will help you guys understand the differences and be able to speak to it a little bit more effectively as well. Whether that's using it for your household and using it for yourself, or looking at it in terms of a business venture. This is a line that I've chosen to draw into my company. We sell it through our websites and through Young Living. It was just something I couldn't pass up. And if you know anything about me and my business, that was a huge decision because I was adamantly against CBD when it first came out because it wasn't being done right. And I know that's a really strong statement, but I'll still say that there's ways to do it right. And there's ways to do it where you better hope things don't backfire because you're skating a really thin line. And that's not okay for me. My background is conventional medicine and naturopathic health. I'm a holistic health professional. I'm working on my doctor of naturopathy, and I'm fighting a little bit of a cold right now, apparently. So if you guys hear me working on my tea over here, that's what it is. So to be able to come at CBD from conventional medicine and naturopathic medicine at the same time really kind of gives you a three-dimensional view of it. It helps me understand why it works and how it works, but it keeps me very cognizant of the risks associated too. Whenever we had our storefront, we would have people come in all the time and want CBD, and I was like, it's just not something I'm going to carry until it's something that I can take. And the way they were doing regulations, the way they were doing some of their purity testing, it wasn't something that I could professionally risk because I have to be able to pass a drug test. And great, it's awesome for inflammation and pain, but I still don't like cat food. So when I lose my job, it's not going to be very helpful. I'm going to be a little more stressed out at that point. And I even had people that had come in, someone had come in and asked about it, and I explained my stance on it. He was like, wow, I didn't know that. I thought 0.3% was all we need to pay attention to. And the next week he came in because his best friend had lost his job over it. And the guy kept saying that, but it was legal. It was legal. And there's a lot of gray area in that field. So our entire agenda tonight is to clear up a lot of that gray area for you so that you understand what you're working with and what to look for. We'll talk a little bit about the options that Young Living provides because they're doing this in a way that nobody else is doing it. Very literally, there are certain things that they're allowed to do because they have a clearance from the FDA. And if you know anything about medicine, health, naturopathic, anything like that, you know that that's like, holy cow, the FDA actually approved something. So it's kind of an interesting area for sure. So you may or may not have a whole lot of experience with CBD. It's fine if you don't. We're going to kind of cover everything. We're going to make sure that newbies that aren't familiar with it and don't really know the differences or what it can do are going to walk away with information, and people who just need a little bit more information will feel a little bit more secure with what we're providing here. Okay, so let's talk about what CBD actually is. So CBD is short for cannabin. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh, I can't talk tonight. I've got to double check that. Cannabidiol. That one is just not rolling for me, and I don't know what the deal is. I'm gonna have Susan pop in and say the word for me every time.
You want me to say that one? That's a hard one.
I don't know why I can't. Like, I've said it all day long, and apparently my tongue's like, yeah, we're done with that word. Move on to the next one. Susan, you say it for me. Okay, so CBD.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute. Cannabidiol.
Okay, there we go. I'm gonna mess that up more tonight, I assure you. So CBD is a natural substance. It is already in the plant. It's not a manufactured chemical. It's not something that, we talk about using aspirin for headaches. Well, aspirin is taking one of the components of the white willow bark and clearing out all of the things that we want to keep in there. CBD is the whole component inside the plant. It's coming from the industrial hemp plant, but there's a difference on how these plants are handled versus the plants that we see on the corner store, the marijuana plants. There's exchanges going on. Marijuana is actually produced when the hemp plant is grown just the females by themselves. They call out the male variety because there's a chemical interaction that takes place there during the fertilization process that changes that THC. So really, if you looked at it as the female plants putting out this bait of this nice THC, and the male varieties just go for it like honeybees, that's where you start getting the psychoactive effects of the THC in the marijuana. That's why CBD is different, because there's not the male part. So the female plant has put all of the resin out into the hair cells, but there's nothing to create that final chemical reaction to make the THC part. You'll still have a certain amount of THC in the CBD, and we're going to go into depth on that over where you start looking at broad spectrum, full spectrum, isolate, things like that. So, but this is a really great starting point. So it's in the industrial hemp. Industrial hemp is legal to grow. We're going to look at some of the history and where that started changing. But our country has a huge history with hemp as it is. The oils from these plants are used for topical applications, really to elicit a feeling of calm and relaxation, but it acts on certain areas of the body and certain receptors very specifically. But it's not that THC, the tetrahydrocannabinol. Oh, yeah, we're going to mess that word up all night, man. And unfortunately, our society has really given a lot of attention to the THC part of it and not so much the CBD part. So that's something that's really changing a lot, and that's a great thing. So here's a little kind of overview of the history. Early 16th century, I mean, from the point that you saw the Americas really starting to be colonized by Europe was where we started seeing that. We saw some movement in the 1920s, really where media jumped in. I'm sure that is just shocking to us that media would steer medicine. That's still happening quite a bit. We're seeing that with the isolate for CBD. The FDA has figured out, wow, this is really great for epileptic seizures. So we're going to lock this down and call it a pharmaceutical substance, and now it's illegal to have. We saw in 2018, it was moved from a Schedule I substance, which is the same as morphine. If you were carrying morphine in your car, you would have gotten in just as much trouble as carrying CBD. So that just changed in the last 2 years. Towards the end of the year in December, we saw the Hemp Farming Act be signed, and that was what established that you can have CBD oil as long as it has 0.3% or less of THC. Here's where I started getting really suspicious. Every single time somebody would talk about their CBD, they're like, oh, it's 0.3%, it's 0.3%. I'm like, why is it always 0.3%? It's not ever 0.29%, 0.27%. And as an herbalist, I know that you have a certain margin of difference between one batch and the other. I just thought that was really suspicious that everything was just perfectly legal, and it just didn't really make sense to me. So really that kind of started my suspicion towards things. Okay, so let's look at how the CBD actually interacts with our bodies. We can't really just kind of say, oh, well, it fixes this in the system. We have an entire system that's really kind of being ignored. We're very familiar with our respiratory system, our cardiovascular system, all these different things. You don't see the endocannabinol system really talked about a whole lot. The ECS is what we call it. This is an area that really a lot of research is happening in, and you're starting to see them recognize that there's a lot of things happening here, especially from a naturopathic standpoint, and herbalists are loving this because the ECS is really where a lot of plant medicine kicks in, and you're recognizing changes and chemical interactions that can have some really great benefit. So really connecting that and understanding that as a division of the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system, it really adds a whole nother layer to things. Your ECS system is all about balance. So it's all about dialing down a lot of the stressors around you and enabling your body to adapt to things a little bit better. So one of the things that we want to look at is really how that balances and what it's going to do. Something to keep in mind is that ECS system is part of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest. So in some of this information, you're going to see little things popping up about how it works so well for digestive issues, for relaxation. There's a reason, because it's really getting us to downshift into that peripheral nervous system action. Okay, so when it comes to understanding the differences between THC and CBD, what we need to start with is receptor sites. A chemical is just a chemical floating around if it doesn't have a receptor site to really attach to. Your body produces a certain number of cannabinoids anyways, but the thing is how they attach that you're wanting to influence. So you have two different receptor sites. You have your CB1 receptor site and you have your CB2. Your CB1 receptor site is where THC is going to attach. These receptor sites are systemic throughout the entire body, but they're really highly concentrated in brain and nervous tissue. Any kind of neural tissue is going to have a lot of these. This is why you start seeing some of the psychoactive aspect, because it's connecting to brain tissue. This is going to affect your coordination, movement, pain, emotions, mood, thinking, appetite, memories, anything that you can connect to the limbic system and to cognition. You're going to be able to see an influence from that THC part, which isn't always a good thing, isn't always a bad thing, but you have to kind of be aware of both balances on that. Your CB2 receptor sites, on the other hand, they're common throughout the body as well, but they're really concentrated in your immune system, the muscular system, gastrointestinal systems, and your cardiovascular system as well. They really heavily influence pain and inflammation. The thing to keep in mind there is that the CBD doesn't attach to that receptor site, but it prompts the body to be more receptive and to produce more of its own. So it's almost like it just kind of gives it that little elbow, hey, wake up. Okay, we need you to produce more of this and connect to those a little bit more effectively. So again, our THC is what's going to be giving you the psychoactive part and connecting to the CB1 receptor, whereas the CBD oil connects to neither one. It just stimulates the body to produce more of that and doesn't have the effect of feeling high. And honestly, I would say, as far as the CBD aspect goes, that's our biggest hurdle. I think really kind of looking at the entire topic, people jump to conclusions, and it's, oh, you use CBD oil, you must be a pothead. I'm like, okay, well, no, that's not really how it works. Two very different actions. So we're having to stimulate this change in thinking. We're having to separate the stigma of using a hemp plant for health benefits and show, hey, there's actual legitimate science behind this. There's legitimate change, and we're able to make these changes in a healthy, responsible way that's not going to have us just hanging out on the couch playing video games and eating Doritos all day. It's not all it is. It's completely different, actually. So another thing to look at with that ECS system before we move on, this is the one that regulates pain, appetite, all those things that we talked about. But really, we need to look at what interferes with that ECS. Environmental toxins, vaccines, epigenetic influences, all of those things can cause long-lasting damage. So really starting to replace some of those things, it helps support the body in producing its own and being at a healthy state and be more receptive to CBD oils that you would add in. So really, it's kind of, you're reducing your toxic load, and that's always a really good thing to do. But in our society, we have to look at how frequently those epigenetic issues come up, and that's just where the genes are not doing what they were supposed to do. When you start seeing seeing cellular changes. You start seeing miscoded DNA in our Basics of Herbalism 103 class for essential oils. We talk about how essential oils, the terpenes, the sesquiterpenes, the monoterpenes, all of those things can kind of rewrite that miscoded DNA in our cells and improve our bodies from literally a cellular level. So, speaking of terpenes, there are a lot of those found in CBD and essential oils, but how the CBD oil is processed influences how those are going to remain in there. Keep in mind when you see really low levels of the cannabinoids in the body, you're going to see disease processes increasing. So they've actually established a new term for it in the medical realms. It's a clinical endocannabinoid deficiency. That's where you start seeing those epigenetic changes and those low levels starting to have an effect on the body. So I guess kind of as a summary to really make it a little bit more cleanly packaged, the ECS is going to be what regulates the messengers in your body. If you have too much stress, too much digital noise, too much going on, you don't get that message quite as clearly. So it helps calm things down so that your body can communicate with itself a little bit more effectively. Okay, let's see. So first of all, why do we use it? Because of all the different tissues that it's capable of affecting. We talked about gut and digestive. We talked about cardiovascular tissue, nervous tissue. It helps with immune systems. It helps with reproductive issues, pancreas, liver, eyes, bones, skeletal muscle, kidneys. There's very few systems that you can say, okay, CBD is not going to help with that at all. So it's, as much as I hate how car salesy it sounds a lot of times, where you see the commercials on TV, it's good for blah, 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 blah. Okay, but there's ways to use it, and there's points on there that you really have to understand. The biggest one is the quality. That's my number one thing. I'm like, whatever you want to use it for, make sure it's a good quality oil. So you see a lot of people using these for aches and pains, for workout recovery, nausea and vomiting. We're going to talk about why this particular oil with this brand is safe for pregnancy. It helps with addiction. It helps with obesity. And I always put a caveat in there that really what it's doing is it's helping regulate blood sugar levels. So that in turn helps a lot with obesity. Your cardiovascular health, just even up to brain injury. My neurosurgeon loves it, and this is the only brand that he'll work with because the same reasons I will not work with anything else. We need to be able to prove that this is pure and that this is a good quality and it's 0 THC, and then we can actually use it for certain things. So how to choose your CBD. Quality is number one. Man, we cannot say that enough. It really freaks me out that Walmart sells CBD. I'm like, okay, so the gas station sells it, Walmart, every single this used to be a ... store, and now it's a vape shop or a CBD shop or whatever it is. That just you're not getting the quality that you should be looking for at that point. If I had all the money in the world and the patience and probably better control my facial expressions, I would totally do a survey and just buy one from every shop that's in town around us and compare them all. I think that'd be really interesting to do, but that's how you make enemies. So I won't do that. So you really want to make sure that you select a company that has high standards, and we're going to go into depth about what you're looking for in there specifically. There's a couple things that if you don't understand how the hemp plant works, you may not know to look for certain things. You want to make sure that they don't use chemicals. You want to make sure that they're testing correctly and the right kinds of tests with the right frequency as well. This isn't the kind of situation where you just want to have one test, you high five each other, and we're all good. Okay, so let's look at those different options. So full spectrum CBD has everything. It has CBD, it has the low levels of THC, it has plant esters, essential oils, flavonoids, terpenes, everything. It's all in a liquid form, and it causes the entourage effect. The entourage effect is where you have all these different components acting together to create this overall effect on the body, which is a great thing. That's what you want. It's synergistic. That's what we're always looking for in essential oils, particularly. You have over 100 different constituents in this kind of an oil, but this is the one that's not legal in all 50 states. Your CBD isolate is pure CBD. It has zero THC. It's been completely washed of the THC, but it's also lost the terpenes too. So, because of losing those components, you've also lost the entourage effect. This one, it's synergistically not balanced. It's just one thing, and that has an effect on the body, which is great. And what they had done is they had taken it out, washed everything out, and it created this white powder. Now I have personal experience with this because we had worked on getting an isolate for our shop and for the products that we make, and I was very adamant it has to be isolate. We're not doing full spectrum. I get that it's 0.3%, but that doesn't matter to me. I need it to be this. So we looked at investing into that, and at the last minute I was like, I don't know, let me just wait. It was a really good decision because the next month after we looked at submitting thousands of dollars in orders for this, the FDA said, this is really effective for seizures and for all these things. So I think we're going to keep that one for us. As soon as they said that, the price skyrocketed. From a medical standpoint, you'd be amazed at what the markup on medical anything is, especially pharmaceuticals. So now at this point, to have CBD isolate is actually illegal. It's a federal offense as well. So it'll cause you some trouble. So then we go to Smart Spectrum. So nobody else is doing Smart Spectrum. Smart Spectrum is unique to Young Living. Nobody else has the rights to it. Nobody else has the formula to it. It is completely locked down for Young Living. So every time somebody's like, oh, I've got this great CBD oil, I'm like, oh, it just can't beat Young Living. That's what it comes down to. So really looking at their reputation, they've got over 25 years as a world leader in essential oils. And so much of that has been because of their purity expectations, their seed to seal guarantee. So to transfer that exact process and policy over to CBD was ultimate what you're looking for. So with a Smart Spectrum, you have the CBD isolate, but then they've added the essential oils back into it. So now you have that terpene action, you have the monoterpenes, all of those sesquiterpenes, everything you're looking for in there. So now we have the entourage effect again, and you have a synergistic blend. What I really like here is that you can tweak that recipe too, so that you can have something specific for brain cognitive ability, for digestion, for stimulating whatever it is that you're needing to do. There's going to be options for, okay, this one would be better for you. This one would be good, but this one is best. Gives you a lot of wiggle room on that. Something to keep in mind there. This is right in line with all of their other policies. It's all natural, it's organic, it's vegan, it's gluten-free. But to me, the most important thing is it's certified 0% THC. I always throw in 0.0 because I don't want them to think, oh, well, it's the same as 0.3%. You're just not rounding up. No, it's completely different. It's certified. They're putting a label on that the FDA recognizes as them knowing what's in there. They test 16 different points during this process of creating this oil, and all of those results are available in one final printout on their website. For me, transparency is a really big deal, and especially to see a company that takes it from seed literally to seal, and you've done all the testing and all the control. For me, that's so much like in surgery. If they're opening an implant for us to use, I don't want the rep to hand it to this person, hand it to that person, to this person, and then it finally gets to me. You open it up, you set it down, and I'm the only one who touches it. We've eliminated so many opportunities for mistakes to happen. We're seeing the same thing done with this company. It doesn't leave. So there's not oh man, that company sent us the wrong file. Oops, that one was 0.8% THC. Sorry. That's not how it works. So I appreciate that. So really keeping an eye on the heavy metals is something you're wanting to watch for as well. So in Chernobyl, with the massive just the waste that was left behind from nuclear issues, they started planting hemp there because hemp has such a long taproot. Your taproot is your central root that goes down into the dirt, but it was so strong and so deep that it leaches the heavy metals out of the soil. which is wonderful if you're cleaning up a nuclear site. Not so good if you're eating the plant that's growing from that. So for part of that seed to seal guarantee to be their land as well, we know that they're not just planting this on the curb next to Walmart and there's all this pollution and all this craziness. So that was just another level that I like to add it in there. So when you're selecting a CBD oil, you really want to watch for testing on those heavy metals as well. They also don't use solvents. When I teach my 103 class, I'm really big about, okay, you don't want anything that's diluted. You don't want anything that's solvent. That really changes how things are done. And to be honest, it steals some of your money. If you're being charged for something that's pure and it's not, you're being cheated. So that's kind of a big deal for me. Okay, so real quick for CBD usage and safety, you always want to shake your bottle. This is plant material. This is a natural product, so there's a little bit of natural settling that happens and is to be expected. You're always going to shake it before you use it. You're always going to keep it away from heat and light and humidity. For topical application, you want to make sure your skin is clean, of course. I feel like you shouldn't have to say that, but I've worked in surgery too long to know that not everybody gets that. As with any herb, I always tell people start small. If you're going to have an allergic reaction to something in a blend, you would much rather have it on a little half-inch square on your arm than systemically through your whole body because you ingested it or you did a whole body massage and now you're in trouble. So that's just kind of one of those, hey, this is a good way to start with anything like this. Okay, so again, let's look at some of those points on why this is the brand that I opted to go with for my company. We talked about certified organic, certified CBD levels, non-GMO. We talked about seed to seal, really just kind of reiterating again, these are the points that we're looking for, and this is why we went this way. Keep in mind, when they added that plant profile back in with those essential oils, basically you're creating a tailored broad spectrum just without that THC. So let's take a second and we're going to look at a couple of the things that are available through Young Living with that CBD oil. This one is my favorite, hands down. It's compact, it's quick to go. I throw it in my bag. And when our surgery is delayed and the patient ate and they can't find our instruments at whatever it is that's stressing me out, this one really takes the edge off. All of our CBD products come in two different strengths. You have a regular strength and an extra strength, of course. I always suggest starting with the lower strength. If it works for you, great. Let's start there. It's more cost effective, and if it works, it works. This one is really great for quieting your brain down a little bit. When you're ready to kind of start winding down for the night, this one will help with sleep. And this one is really great for kids for getting, okay, well, here, let's get a bedtime routine in place. I bet Cass is over at her house right now rubbing this on the baby. Getting them to kind of downshift into that bedtime routine and get a good night's sleep. You can apply it to your chest and neck. That's where I like it best. If it's just a stress issue, a lot of times I'll put it anywhere along my spinal column and usually just down the back of my neck. Okay, so joint and muscle balm. Susan's husband, she jokes that this is his cologne now. So I know he's a huge, huge advocate for it. Susan, you want to say something about the joint balm?
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, he uses this like every morning and every night. Jeff has really run his body through the ringer because he loves high impact sports. And he has done so much damage that he basically can't move around anymore without this stuff. But yeah, he loves this stuff, and it smells really good too, thank goodness, because like I said, he's always smelling like this. But it gets him going in the morning because it kind of takes the edge off when he gets, how you're stiff when you get up in the morning if you're our age. So yeah, he definitely uses this throughout the day, and he uses excuse me, he uses the 300 so that he can reapply it over and over because the essential oils in it help as well. So he doesn't want to have to just apply it once and then that's it for the day. He wants to be able to put it on more than once. So that's what he goes for.
Yeah, I used it for my headache earlier and it was pretty effective. When they say hot and cold sensation, they're not joking. I grew up with icy hot and wore it for years on my shoulder for an injury. And it's got that heat and cold aspect too, for sure. I love that it has the helichrysum in there. That is such a tissue repair kind of an oil that makes a lot of sense. This particular balm is going to target muscles, inflammatory cells, and a lot of your pain perception nerves. So it helps joint and pain, gout, arthritis, anything like that. It's going to help improve with those. But it's a really good chest rub too. I think a lot of people don't know that. Actually, that's probably what I'm going to use it for next, is to kind of clear up some congestion. But one of the things that you can do, our Panaway, or really Panaway is probably my favorite. If you'll apply that to sore muscles, or whatever you're working on, let that kind of soak in for a couple minutes and then apply this on top of it. You've got just like the perfect muscle and joint kind of a combination. So the CBD oil, so we've got 3 different varieties on here. Again, every one of them has 2 different strengths, and each one's going to have a different combination of essential oils in it. The CBD, the Cool Mint one, I love this one for my husband because it's very calming to digestion, but it's really great for oxygenating the brain and the body. So you're going to see improvement in focus and clarity. This one's my favorite as well for that reason. It just kind of helps focus me in a little bit. Now, I'm going to say that the label says it's for topical use, but again, being very familiar with labeling regulations and how all the red tape works with that, we can't officially say that they're recommend them for ingestion, just like we can't say we're attempting to cure, treat, diagnose, or anything like that. There's all of these little key things you have to say and things you can't say, but we can tell you to use it as you see fit. In my house, we use it internally, and I know a lot of people who do so as well. Because of those purity expectations and that seed to seal, I don't question it. I know that we're going to be good, and it's a blend that works really well for everybody in our family.
And I just have to say that right before we started here, I put some under my tongue.
I probably should have. I'm so loaded up with thieves and elderberry syrup right now. I'll probably add that one in, because there are ones that are really great for immune system. Actually, our next one, the citrus one, is really good for liver function and improving metabolic function. So anytime you're trying to do cleanses or detoxes or lose weight, anything like that, citrus is going to be really helpful for that. It's going to improve circulation, immune system, but it also helps improve complexion too. I think that's probably because so much of our complexion and our skin issues are tied to our gut. So if you're seeing improvement in that area, it makes sense that that would trickle down and transfer to your skin. Cinnamon. Okay, so this one tastes like the red hot candies. I actually like this one. I normally don't like a whole lot of cinnamon things. So this one's going to be very antioxidant. It's going to have a lot of that metabolic function boosting and immune system as well. So you've got your cinnamon in there. I believe it's got clove, a couple different things in there. So that one's a pretty good one too. It's really hard to choose actually between the 3. So we kind of keep all 3 on hand. Okay, so before we head into me kind of giving you guys some heads up on these starter kits, a couple of questions that usually come up. The first question is, will it get me high? I think we've kind of answered that as far as, identifying the CBD versus the THC. Are you going to fail a drug test? If you take a CBD oil that has 0.3%, even if the state of Texas says it's legal, and we don't even have to look at all the different situations we've had where we have seen where federal law trumps state law. If your employer says that you cannot test positive for CBD at all, you're still going to pop positive. That is my big thing why I wouldn't do it until this point. The Nature's Ultra from Young Living has that 0% THC. So I even take this and I am tested frequently. You do one pop-up with a hippie market and I assure you, conventional medicine employers will test you. It's hilarious how predictable it is. Is it going to work right away? Some people have an immediate response. My husband's sensitive system just takes it up and he can feel a change within the first couple of days. Not everybody is like that. Some people can take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to really see a change. But I always tell people with natural health, it's subtle and it's a longer lasting change. So you've got to give it a chance to work. Consistency is absolutely key with anything natural. Using it the same time of day, using the same dosage, really making sure that you're doing that every day as a routine, you'll start seeing those changes and seeing that improvement. And at that point, if you feel like you need to move up in strength, I would advise that. But give it 2 weeks and see how your body adjusts to it. I tell people for everything, 2 weeks is really kind of minimum for wanting to assess something and how well it's working. Always pay attention to your body. If it makes you feel really off, if something just feels different in a negative way, listen to your body. Make some changes, maybe pull something back and see if that change kind of affects things a little bit. So I couldn't teach this class and not tell you guys about these starter kits. This was why my husband signed up in the first place, because the CBD starter kits are only available to new enrollees. Me as a member, I can't go in and purchase the CBD starter kit, unfortunately. That is my favorite kit. And really, it's because of the pricing breakdown. If you looked at what your retail cost is on all of these individual pieces, you're getting a massive amount of savings. For your regular strength starter kit, you're in all of your little components in there add up to $278 worth of product, and you're getting it for $165. And you get your lifetime membership and your 24% discount immediately. That's $113 worth of savings right off the bat. So basically, you're getting the most expensive piece in that grouping for free. Same thing with extra strength. You've got $471 worth of products there. You're paying $250, so your savings is $221. Now, here's my little insider's tip, and here's what I do. So my husband has the starter kit, got him set up. He was a happy camper. He used every bit of it until I stole the calm roller from him, and he just won't go into my purse and look for it, and that's why I still have it. But so we put our CBD refills, because we're using them consistently. We're going through about a bottle a month. So we just automatically put our next bottle to replace that on our ER program. The Essential Rewards has a lot of benefits. They're going to let you choose what you want shipped to your door. It's an optional program. You can cancel at any time, but there's a lot of benefits to it. You get your discounted shipping. For me, I get the supplements and CBD that I need without having to try to remember to order it. That's kind of nice. But you get freebies that come. I think this last time there were like 2 or 3 things in my order that were full size and were free because of my order. But the best thing about it is you gain points back. So if you, let's say you put the 1 ounce CBD oil on your ER rewards. So you are going to get, just starting out the first month, you're going to get 10% of those points back. So immediately I'm getting $20 back on my order, and I can use that towards any Young Living product on my next order. But that's not even taken into consideration. I'm also getting my 25% discount. So between the discount and the points back, you're just basically getting it for free if you start letting those build up. And that is not a bad thing in my book. So that's really kind of how we have done it. And it has been just a no-brainer. It's been awesome to just have things show up when we need them. I know for us, we order we do the toothpaste, we do deodorant, we have the CBD oil, the Life 9 for Gabe, and the Digize. Those are just 5 things that are on every single monthly order for us. And so we're constantly getting those points back. And whether he knows it or not, I turn around and use them for myself on something that I want. So it kind of works out. I figure that happens in a lot. If that's the most dishonest thing I do, we're good. We're totally good. So, all right. Well, do you guys have any questions? Do you guys have anything you want to pop in and say? Give myself a chance to drink more of my tea. Cass, did you have any questions? You probably got a baby almost asleep, I bet. That's a yes. All right. Well, we will be sharing some more information across our social media outlets coming up, but we're so glad you guys were able to make it. It looks like we have 2 chat options there. Okay, good. So everybody was able to hear. And of course, anytime you guys have questions, I know you know the one of the 3 of us, Susan or Stacy or myself, so feel free to message us. If we don't have the answer, we can find it for you. So we'll be set. There's Cass. All right. Well, thanks, guys, and we will see you next Tuesday at 6:30. We are trying to make sure that you guys just know automatically every Tuesday there's going to be a class. We'll be covering some neat stuff next week, so we'll see y'all then.
Thank you.
Have a good night.